Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where the host doesn't say trick or treat. He says trick for treat. He actually doesn't say anything, but when he does a trick, he gets a treat. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes, and we are halfway through the NFL season. The new weeks, they all very confusing. Point is, this is the halfway mark, and I am joined once again by Ben Solak. Ben, how are you feeling at this halfway point in the NFL season? Any broad overarching takes you want to get off your chest?
You know, they asked us for like round table on the ESPN.com side. They were like bold second half predictions, and I sat down and I was like, hopefully there'll be two good teams by the end of the year. Maybe I'll feel nice about one total thing entering the playoffs. I'm very done trying to figure out what's going to happen this season.
They do. They ask us for Super Bowl picks before the season, right? Every year. And my very boring one was Chiefs Lions. Feels pretty good right now.
I had Chiefs on the AFC. I'm unwilling to reveal my NFC pick. You'll have to look online to find that.
Well, okay. We are going to talk about both of those teams. The Lions in particular have a very exciting game this weekend. As always, we are going to preview every game this time in week 9. Some of the games we will get through a little bit quicker than others. One of those is Texans-Jets, a Thursday night game that I'm guessing when the schedule makers, the folks at Amazon looked at this before the season, a lot of excitement, a lot of hype around Texans-Jets. Are we at the point now where we can sort of, because I feel like the Jets every week, maybe I'm wrong, I think they've gotten full game discussion from us every week thus far this season. This might be the first time. I don't know. Maybe I didn't do Broncos.
Once
Jets.
The win percentage hits 25% or lower, you get relegated real fast. You must be above this bar to ride the ride, and the Jets are not above the bar.
So this game is mine to discuss or to provide keys for. I will say, I think it could be close. So let's start there. I think the Texans are a better football team, but I certainly don't have them running away with this one in large part, because the news that Stephon Diggs is out for the season, which Ben kind of flew under the radar. I feel like amidst the Anthony Richardson news, the Diggs news kind of slipped in there. He did get hurt last week, but the seriousness of it was not revealed until yesterday, and then Deontay Johnson was traded. A lot was happening. Point is, he is out. Now, the good news for the Texans is Nico Collins is coming back, but that will not be until week 10 because he had to take 4 weeks off. So that's sort of what I'm focused on in this one, is the Texans offense versus the Jets defense, which is to say, can you get enough offense out of the skill players you have this week is sort of my overarching question. Can you avoid third and long? The Jets run defense is very sus. Houston's rushing attack is sus. Even with Joe Mixon in there, they get more explosive runs, but they are still not very consistent. So we're looking at Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, Robert Woods. Probably not in that order. That's just the order I haven't written down.
Right.
So I guess let me lobby that to you. Do you feel like they can get enough off? This is an offense that's already been struggling with Stephon Diggs in the lineup. Do you think they can get enough offense this week with the players that I mentioned?
I think they can. I think not necessarily with the players you mentioned. I will say that when we were at 53-man cut down point and the Texans had their 6 wide receivers we've talked about and also Noah Brown on the roster, there was a big who are the Texans going to cut at receiver? We are so deep. Oh, what a problem this is. First world issues. And then here you are. It's like, all right, John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson better be what you thought they were, because you did cut Noah Brown. And remember, last year, the Texans had wide receiver injuries, right? They lost Tank Dell for a moment. They lost Robert Woods for a moment. Noah Brown came in and had really productive days for them. And so this is a big game for Nick Caserio in terms of some of the decisions that you make when you get to 53-man cuts. But I think it's more going to be with the rushing attack. I think it's going to be a big Joe Mixon day. We've seen the Texans this season be more willing to do 12 personnel stuff. Dalton Schultz, along with Cade Stover, the rookie tight end that they got out of Ohio State. I think you're going to see a real heavy reliance on Mixon, on some more condensed formations, running the football. Like you said, that Jets front that's just built for speed. That linebacker room is built for speed. You kind of want to run straight at them. So I think it's a heavy Mixon game. I think it's going to be a very fast Thursday night game, which would be nice because there'll be a lot of runs on both sides of the ball, a lot of completions from these quarterbacks. We're going to keep this thing chucking.
Well, last week I thought was kind of emblematic of what we have seen from Joe Mixon this year, because he rushes for over 100 yards, right? And he has 5 explosive, meaning over 10-yard runs, which is really good. But then he gets stuffed 8 times, which is not good. It's very boomer bust this run game with him, and that's I would say much more about the offensive line than it is about Joe Mixon. But yeah, I kind of think we might see
Mm.
more of the same. You could get a lot of 3-and-outs. You could get a lot of um, third and longs, but then you also have a very good chance of getting those explosive runs against a Jets run defense that you talked about how aggressive they are. They're just not very stout or consistent against the run.
You know how you said like, oh, I think this could be close, right? The Jets are favored in this game. The Jets are 2-point favorites.
Really? So
Yeah.
here's why I'm not going that far. I think this Houston defense is very good, and I think they
Mhm.
match up well with this Jets offense. I mean, you want to quickly hit the other side of it? Like, am I wrong? And because part of the reason why I'm not jumping ship on Houston, or at least panicking about their ability to win the division, is because of that defense. I mean, they
Right.
were outstanding last. That was the flip side of the whole Anthony Richardson thing, right? Like, oh man, his completion percentage sucks, and he's under pressure, and guys are dropping balls. Well,
Yeah.
defense gets paid too, right? And this
Right.
Houston Texans defense has made a lot of offenses look bad this
Yeah.
year.
In a Twilight Zone world, this would be the best Thursday night football game that there is because it's Will Anderson versus Sauce Gardner, right? If we were all defense, that's what we rooted for. This is two of the best young defenders in the league we got coming into
All
this
cares
game.
about defense.
Yeah. You remember preseason we did our awards picks and your defensive player of the year dark horse was Will Anderson and mine was Danielle Hunter. Yeah, good one. Will Anderson, you got me on that one. The Willie man, he's playing unbelievable ball this season. I do the Texans defense has started to reach this point. Like I think we do all of our analysis. You watch the film, you go through the numbers, and you say, oh, this team is primed for regression. I watched that Texans defense, and I'm like, man, with how aggressive this front is and some of the questions I have at linebacker and so the way these safeties play, like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's going to be some team that just throws it on a middle of the field, play action, just gets them. And just every single week it doesn't happen. We're approaching exception that proves the rule territory with D'Amico Ryan's defense, where it's just like, yeah, you can look at all the stuff you want, but D'Amico's boys get it. They just get it over 4 quarters. They play fast, they play aggressive, they tackle, and they win.
That brings me back to the matchup again. I do think that there are offenses that can do that against Houston. I do not think it's the New York Jets, like play action, middle of the field. No. I also think D'Amico will blitz Aaron Rodgers in a way that we have seen certain good defenses have success doing so this year.
And Aaron just really
Yeah.
hates feeling any sort of discomfort in the pocket right now. He fades away from a lot of stuff. He jumps off his back foot. And even when the Texans don't win the rush, they are so good right now. So stinking good at collapsing pockets. Even when they don't get to you, it never feels nice in there. So I think it's a real rough day for Rodgers. They have to run the football too if they want to be successful on offense.
The way I see this being close is if the Texans offense is inept, which I want to be clear, entirely possible, right? Like again, I'm talking about how I think the Texans defense matches up well with the Jets. I think the Jets defense matches up well with this version of the Texans without Nico Collins. So I am not I'm going under. That's the only thing I feel good about this one. I don't like either offense in this scenario. I do lean Houston, however. What say you?
I lean Houston. I will say that Jets defense, I agree with it on a large scale. On a small sample since Saleh left, man, ain't had the same teeth. Ain't had the same teeth at all. And I don't know if that's a locker room thing and energy thing. Oh, we're losing games. I don't know if that's a designer stuff on third down, finding tendencies thing. All I know is I'm willing to discount the Jets defense a little bit more because I think that without Saleh, it might have lost a little bit of its gas.
I grabbed this from Monday's show. I'm not seeing it right now, but I believe before the firing, they were 5th in EPA per play, and it's dropped below 20 on defense. So, and
they've played the Steelers and the mostly Jacoby Brissett Patriots. Okay,
man, it is.
It's no good.
It is rough out there. Dominique, when the firing happened, we were both kind of like, whatever, But Dominique made what I now in hindsight looks like a very good point, which is in promoting Ulbrich, they did rob from the side of the ball that was working. And unforeseen consequences.
And every Jets fan was like, "Oh, but it's Ulbrich's defense; it'll be fine." It's never fine. It's never when you change the internal, chemistry of the coaches and who does what on which days of the week. There's always fallout.
Okay, so Saints Panthers, you have the privilege of breaking down. That is, Derek Carr is back.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if should I start Derek Carr?
Yes.
On my dynasty team, or Jameis Winston against the Ravens defense. Both members of the
Jameis did the Ravens last week. What were we talking about?
Oh no, sorry.
The Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers.
You
Oh, I
should
should start
start
Carr.
Jameis against the Ravens. I think he'll throw for like
I
334
did.
yards and a few
I
scores.
did. I almost
Nice.
beat Jackson Bevins. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I should start Carr against the Panthers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
every quarterback should get to play the Panthers at least once.
Yeah. That's we're gonna get to the Broncos and Bo Nix in a little bit, but yes, any quarterback against the Panthers, we should be expecting production from. The other thing with this Saints team is Saints run the ball extremely well, and the Panthers have been so bad against the run, especially outside zone. Panthers have already played the Saints once, obviously, which kind of affects the numbers a little bit. But by ESPN charting, 29th in yards per run allowed the Panthers defense against outside zone, last in EPA against outside zone, and it's what the Saints major in. They got Lucas Patrick and Cesar Ruiz both back. They got Taysom Hill back, which is a big part of their running game, both when he's in the backfield and when he's aligned as a tight end. Derek Carr returning obviously means we expect the play action pass game to work a little bit better. No Rashid Shaheed, but Chris Olave is back. The Saints are kind of coming around the corner in terms of health. They obviously are also losing other guys, but generally are healthier than they've been in the last several weeks. And they're probably going against Bryce Young again, given the way that Wednesday reports are indicating things for the Panthers. Andy Dalton did practice, so I don't know if that might change throughout the week, but as of right now, we're expecting Young. In this week 1 game, they just blitzed the ever-living daylights out of the boy, and just he couldn't handle it, couldn't see it fast enough, was taking bad sacks, and they fell out of their game script early. So the key to this one for the Panthers is you have to be able to stay in your running game, right? They had like 11 total handoffs the Panthers did in week 1. That's not how Dave Canales' offense works. They really want to be able to run it. Jonathan Brooks did practice this week, and so you have to, the key here is no turnovers, no short fields, punt the football, make them go the full distance, but you cannot fall into that 17-point hole you fall into in the first quarter last game, because then you lose your running game. So you have to keep this thing on a regular script if you want a chance.
I mean, the Panthers, I'm guessing, sight unseen, have the worst run defense in the NFL. I can't imagine the Saints are that far behind them based on what is happening.
If you look at just like generic numbers, Saints run defense actually is like down there. Like I think it's below the Panthers in terms of success rate. Like it is gnarly bad.
Yeah. I am one of those people who accidentally sorry, I'll stop talking about fantasy, I promise, but accidentally drafted Chuba Hubbard to have been thriving.
How you accidentally draft Chuba?
It was one of my auto draft. It was one of my leagues. I turned it to auto. Oh my gosh. DVOA actually has the Saints defense worse against the run than the Panthers. That is...
That a little surprises me, but doesn't super surprise me. This Saints team, man, like the thing is nobody on the team likes contact. And Pete Werner's coming back, which is going to help them a lot at backer, but just they're so it's what we talked about 2 weeks ago. They're so bad tackling right now. So everything against them gets a couple extra yards.
I think that they win. Shocker. Part because I think that the defensive competition, the lack of pass rush, particularly interior pass rush, will have this Saints offense looking a lot more like it did weeks 1 and 2, where they were able to execute the all that under center play action, and the run game looked as good as it did before the interior of the offensive line fell apart. So get right opportunity for Derek Carr's New Orleans Saints. I assume you were also on the Saints.
Yeah, if it's Bryce, it's Saints by a bajillion. If it's Dalton, I actually think this could get a little bit funky, but as it is Bryce, I think it's Saints.
All right, let's do Dolphins Bills in all of its glory. This is a big one. This feels... doesn't have the same juice that it did last couple of years, right? This game has had a lot of juice lately, or pardon me, in recent years, but obviously the Dolphins, this is kind of it for them. They really have to win this one to stay in the mix. You have the Dolphins side of this. I am discussing the Bills. I'm going to throw this out. Khalil Shakir. Let's go, baby. I feel like this is a game. This Bills offense has been really fun to watch. Well, it wasn't fun for me to watch last week, but as a neutral observer of football, it is very good. They do a lot of different things. They do a lot of different things well. They are very creative and dynamic in the rushing attack. And Josh Allen has had a lot of games where he's been sort of a patient, calm, quick distributor of the football. Air this out. Air it out. This Dolphins defense, and you saw this last week against Arizona, cannot stop passes downfield. Kyler Murray last week on passes over 10 yards went 10 for 13 for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of these DBs have been struggling, even like Javon Holland's having a little bit of a down year. Interestingly enough, here's a fun split. So again, Josh Allen, a lot of games where it's like very quick and short. So on passes of 0 to 10 yards, the Dolphins defense is actually allowing the lowest QBR in football, 36. That's extremely good. On passes over 10 yards, it jumps to 93, which is amongst the worst in the NFL. So, let's let Josh cook in
Yeah.
this one because this is a very good opportunity for him to do so.
I wonder why that is. Like that's very interesting to me because in theory, we pack deep in intermediate zones and then we encourage you to throw short and then we rally up and we tackle. And it sounds like that, encourage you to throw short, rally up and tackle. It sounds like that part's working well, right? We close down everything that's underneath. We hit it. We get pass breakups. But it sounds like the discourage you from throwing deep is not working as well, right? It sounds like there's too much space there, which like they should have the guys. Like you said, like it's been a down year for Javon Holland, but this Dolphins defense has been an enigma to me because like stats wise, it has been strong for a lot of the season and was strong even when like the backup quarterbacks were in. And like you expect defenses to fade over additional plays and additional drives, and they were holding their own. But then I go and I watch like film wise, I'm just like, man, like, I feel like there's a lot of space here.
Well, yeah, that was how I felt watching. I mean, there were some contested catches, no doubt, right? With the Cardinals, but also guys were just getting open pretty consistently.
And Kyler was so good at extending and like making those plays that the Dolphins won actually end up being wins for the Cardinals, which is not a good thing to hear when you're about to play Josh Allen. It's like, oh yeah, he's the best at that. Whoops.
Yeah, but I think that sort of cuts to your question, which is like, the Dolphins are actually still pretty good at getting pressure, even with the injuries that they've had up front. But if pressure doesn't get home, they have not been structurally sound on the back end.
And I will say that, like, I think that this run defense for the Dolphins has been good. I think that a big part of the reason why is Zach Seiler. I always don't know which one it is. And he had the freak accident orbital bone fracture in practice before the Cardinals game, was absent for the Cardinals game. I think you felt his absence, and they don't know yet if he can go for this game. And Seiler is like as big of a loss.
That was actually why I changed my so little peek behind the scenes. I was actually leaning Dolphins, and then when I saw the Sealer injury at the last second, I flipped it to the Cardinals, and I said, this feels high scoring, and it's the only good prediction I've made in years. All right. You are doing the Dolphin side of this. So, but I mean, well, talk about what you want to talk about. I have some thoughts.
Right. My main thing for the Dolphins is this is a Mike McDaniel game, and it's time to do something different against Sean McDermott. Right. McDaniel's now seen McDermott in 5 games. So over his time as the Dolphins head coach, they won the first one. That was the 21-19 game. There was the butt punt, and it was like a bajillion degrees in Miami, and the Bills looked great, and then all of a sudden they died in the fourth quarter. Since then, the Bills have won every single matchup. The Dolphins have scored fewer points in 4 successive games, 29, 20, 14-10. Success rate has gone down in all 4 games, 47%, 45%, 44%, 42%. EPA down 0.14, negative 0.08, positive 0.05, negative 0.25. Points per drive down every single game. McDermott's got the base offense in handcuffs. All right. And like, if you remember in the middle of 2023, when we started to figure out like, all right, what are teams, it was middle of 2022. What are teams going to start to do against this passing game? They had that game against the Chargers. Oh, Brandon Staley put the blueprint out there. And then they found the Bills, and the Bills said, yeah, we've got this now. We understand the tendencies. We understand the motions. We understand how you want to throw this against us. We're going to play with all this inside leverage. We're going to put these safeties shallow, right? We are going to take this away from you. And since then, McDaniel has just not been able to out chessboard Sean McDermott. He has struggled in every single game, and they're largely trying to hit the same stuff and just hit it a little bit faster, hit it a little different, a little motion, a little different window dressing. The Bills are just way too fundamentally sound for that. I think that Bills game you saw against the Seahawks last week was such a good reminder that Sean takes away the 3 things you do best and just makes you play left-handed. And for a min-maxed offense like the Dolphins, it's just no good. So you have to come with something new. You have to be able to come with a variety in the running game and condensed sets and 2 tight end, 2 back stuff. You have to be able to come with stuff behind the line of scrimmage. You have to connect on a deep ball or 2. Like, you have to be able to play left-handed against the Bills. And just that's something McDaniel and 2 have really struggled with over their time together.
Do you feel like, because the thing when I watch the Bills defense, first of all, I have completely forgotten. I don't care who gets hurt. It's still, they're always going to be good. That's kind of where I am with Sean McDermott in this group. But do you feel like there are weaknesses that McDaniel can attack? So like going into the Seahawks game, my thought was like, well, you go after linebacker. I mean, we have seen teams that play bully ball can bully this Bills defense. But the Dolphins do not play bully ball.
They don't have their DNA.
That's not who they are. Is there anything else that you would do to attack this particular iteration of the Bills defense?
Right. So if you can't go bully ball, which like I don't think it's in their DNA. I also think like you have Jonnu Smith, you have Julian Hill, like you have you have Alec Englewood, you have bigger bodies, you can get the ball too, right? Even like Raheem Mostert is not the smallest dude. Like you can try. The other thing that I think you have to be able to do against the Bills, and especially if you're this Dolphins offense, is we talk a lot about how do you beat too high, how do you beat zone coverage? Oh, run the football, this kind of thing. The other thing you can do is go deeper than deep. right? Okay, you want to not let us get everything we want at 20 yards? We're going to go take it at 30. We're going to take it at 35, right? This is the sort of game where you'd like to be able to say, okay, if you're going to play Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford off by 9 yards on Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, which is what they want to do, and they typically do a good job taking Tyreek Hill away, then we are going to take that free release. We're going to send him, and we're going to tell Tua, listen, we got to get 50 yards in one play. We have to a little bit live and die by the sword here. That is not really in the Dolphins' DNA because the quarterback, right? The quarterback is not good at hitting that throw in stride down the field accurately. He usually lets it hang, and then the safety can go get involved. And so it's one of those two things. And I acknowledge it's not in the Dolphins' DNA. Welcome to pro football. You don't get it's not Madden. You don't get to run 4 plays and cheese it for 17 games. You have to be able to change your identity a little bit.
I feel like you really have to activate Devon Achane in the passing game in this one. I think back to, I guess it was week 1 when he had a lot of catch. I think it was week 1 he had over 100 yards, right? And yards after the catch. And a lot of it was, I can't remember who was playing it, but whoever they were playing it, where there was a world of space in the flats. And it wasn't even anything particularly tricky. They were like, let's just get, they're scared of our speed on the perimeter, as they should be, as every defense is in the NFL. Let's get Devon Achane the ball in space and let him cook. And all he has to beat is one dude. Mm-hmm. I feel like against, we'll see how these corners approach defending Hill and Waddle, but I feel like I hear what you're saying about like attacking them downfield and sort of the importance of that, but also like you're going to want to avoid 3 and outs against this, given who's on the other side of the football. And I think Achane gives him the ability to maybe pick up to achieve successful plays on early downs that they won't in the traditional rushing game.
Yeah, I hear you, and like their passing menu with Achane is really sick in terms of they'll go 2 back with him and Mostert in the huddle. They'll line him up at receiver and just throw him now screens, just throw him and just let him be quick, let him break that first tackle, what have you. They run that little swing pattern where they bring the blocker out in front of him, and then it becomes kind of a little bit like a screen with one blocker, and it's all smart and it's all clever. If I'm Sean McDermott and someone tells me, hey, they give Achane 10 targets, right? He totals 20 touches. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I'm gonna hit him. I'm going to hit him. I mean, he's not big. He's not big, and they like to rotate their backs. Like, okay, you're going to get me with Achane, but eventually I'm going to get Achane on the sideline for a series, and then I'll win that series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Bills. Mm-hmm. I'm on the Bills.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bills. I think it's going to be a very, very big win for Buffalo. I just like the Dolphins have been doing a great job on defense with, I think, not a full deck of cards. I don't think that can sustain against an offense like this. And I'm not convinced that they have anything offensively against McDermott. I think it might get ugly.
I don't know about that, but I do think the Bills. I think that the Dolphins offense will have some success against them. But I don't have a lot of confidence in there. This Bills offense is so good. I think, other than that one Texans game, I feel like, Allen is firmly in the MVP conversation, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to imagine a world in which the offense looks anything close to what it did against Houston, against this particular defense. All right. Speaking of good defense, Chargers, Browns, 2 great defenses, I would argue. So you can go first with the Chargers, mm-hmm. the enigmatic LA Chargers, and then I will do the Browns.
Yeah, so this week, Jameis asked about his good performance against the Ravens. Gave a nice Jameis quote. He said, when I'm making great decisions one play at a time, I'm a great NFL quarterback. Those are Jameis's words. The goal for the Chargers, let's make Jameis make some great decisions, all right? Because Jameis's world of great decisions, right, is, okay, I'm not being too aggressive. I'm not just chucking it down the field every opportunity. I'm making the smart reads. And the Chargers are extremely good, one of the top defenses at discouraging outside wide receiver targets, at discouraging throws down the field. They encourage the highest rate of checkdowns of running back targets of all defenses in the league through 8 weeks of the season. So this defense puts a blanket on top of you and tells your quarterback to be mature and to be mature fast, right? That's what you have to do. And Jameis, I think, is of the opinion that he did that against the Ravens. I think when you watch that film, I think you could argue that there was a lot more room for some good decisions from Jameis. It's just not in his DNA. It's not his character. It's not the way that he plays. And so if you're the Chargers here, you are at a point where you want to challenge receivers at the line of scrimmage, right? And say, okay, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, are you guys really equipped to kind of beat us one-on-one? We're going to put 2 safeties deep. We're going to present like boxes, and we don't think you can run the ball that well at a shotgun right now because the Browns really haven't. I know they've gotten healthier. Wyatt Teller is back, but still, it's been a struggle for them this year. And we think we're going to get Jameis into pass situations, and then we're going to pack the deep, pack the intermediate, and let him make some mistakes back there in the pocket. And I think that's a very reasonable expectation for the Chargers. So make Jameis make good decisions.
It's funny. I think both of these teams are thought of as good run games, like legacy wise. Well, with the Browns, it's like I think when we think of the Browns, we think of and they did run the football a lot more with Jameis, by the way.
Yeah.
That is something. There was a
It was the first Ken Dorsey day, and when Ken Dorsey calls plays, Ken Dorsey likes to establish it. He believes in it.
well, it was a normal NFL offense. It was, and we talked about it. It was a lot of similarities to the Joe Flacco offense, right? They're going to put multiple tight ends on the field. They're going to run the football. They're going to run under center play action. All that is fine. But on the flip side, the Chargers also, like, I think we think of them as like they have this reputation now as being like a very good run team because they spent the whole offseason talking about how much they wanted to run the football. First, they're not good at it. Second, they actually don't do it at the level, I think, reputationally. Like, if you look at all of their metrics for early down runs and runs over situation, all of that, they're pretty average at best, which I find very interesting.
In the column this week, since the bye, week 6, 7, and 8 for the Chargers, they're plus 2.2% pass rate over expected. It's the third highest number in the league. Before the bye, in weeks 1 through 4, they were, I got to find it, negative 10.5% pass rate above expectation. They were third lowest. And so before the bye, they were like, establish. And then they did a little, early week 5 bye check, and they were like, it turns out Justin Herbert is very good. And while J.K. Dobbins is playing well, he is not the caliber of back that Justin Herbert is the caliber of quarterback. And so they've gotten Ladd more activated. They've thrown the ball more. But yeah, they have 100% flipped the script in terms of how they anticipate moving the football. They want to throw it more.
Speaking of that, for the Browns, I wrote, make him beat you with anyone but Ladd McConkey. I'm not afraid of anyone but Ladd McConkey on this football team. Is that an overstatement?
Josh Palmer makes one catch a game where you're like, hey, and then besides that, yeah. I don't think they anticipate getting Quentin Johnston back for this game, if memory serves. So we've only seen early Wednesday injury reports, and the Chargers don't even think of finished practice yet. And so, yeah, besides that, it's right. It's Simi Fehoko, it's Will Dissly, and you're just relying on Justin Herbert's excellence to make that work in the passing game, which has been not terrible for the Chargers last few weeks. But yeah, Browns present a little bit of a stiffer test.
The Browns defense has really, like, I feel like it's funny because you see how with Jameis, it's like, oh, suddenly you remember that Cedric Tillman's a good player and that Elijah Moore can catch and passes. And I actually really did feel like, it's right. Oh my God, I love him. I actually felt like last week when I was watching that, I was like, oh, the defense is like feeding off of it too, right? There's something about having competent quarterback play where everyone's like, oh, we could actually win this game. And I actually think the Browns defense has played well this year. Despite that, the Bengals game was one that really where I was like, this is still a really good defense watching them play. So anyways, all of which is to say, I have a lot of confidence actually on that side of the ball. I think they're going to win up front. I think that they're much better against the run than they were at the beginning of the season, coming off of good performances. I actually thought against Derrick Henry, they were pretty damn impressive, even though he got his as he does. But against the Bengals and the last few weeks or so, they've been pretty good against the run. And I think this is obviously, we know this is a defense that loves to play a ton of cover one. Herbert's numbers against that have been fine this year. He's been playing very well, but I feel like if you can take Ladd McConkey out of the equation, I just do not have confidence in this Chargers offense against the Browns defense.
I'm almost there. I will say that Ladd just had a very good game. I overall have not been that impressed with Ladd. To me, Ladd's not that caliber of oh, gotta get him and everybody else. Yeah, he's been fine. He's been good. He's been whatever. The thing for me with the Browns is just they're really banged up, right? JOK already ruled out for this game. Jordan Hicks did not practice on Wednesday, so that's your starting linebacking core. Denzel Ward, who had the I want to say now it's his second concussion this season, if memory serves. He's considered day-to-day, but usually the second concussion is tougher to get back from protocol-wise. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit understaffed there in the defensive back seven. And that feels like with how aggressive they play and the sort of islands they leave guys on, that can be meaningful.
100%. But the linebacker who came in,
Mo Diabate or whatever. Yeah.
So I just put out a random, I was like, dang, this dude, Mo Diabate, I've never heard of him before this week, 43. I was like, he's really good. He's out there making plays. He's IDing the run. He almost chases down Zay Flowers in space. And Brown's Twitter went nuts. They love, I guess he's been a preseason all-star, whoever, every fan base always has the preseason guy. If he just got his chance, he would be so good. I'm telling you, this guy was excellent. against the Ravens. So, obviously JOK's, I love JOK, but they might have a little more depth at linebacker than previously
Playing
thought.
linebacker in a Jim Schwartz defense is a good time, man. You got to do one thing. You got to look at that gap and run at it as fast as you can. It's a very freeing experience.
Well, against Ravens, he was, I thought, doing an excellent job reading out their option stuff. At least two of the sacks were largely because of him. So,
yeah, I do agree with that line. Like, I thought their defense line played great against the Ravens. I think it has been playing better throughout the course of the season, and that is a big deal against the Chargers, who every time I watch this Chargers interior, I'm like, good God, how are they doing this? Like, this should be like crippling to most teams, and yet they're getting away with it in both the running game and in the passing game. But there's some worlds where the Browns just bully them between the tackles.
I believe I saw that Zadarius Smith might.
He did not practice this week with
a
little Brad Holmes is calling disease.
Got a case of tracheitis. So that's certainly a factor in this. I was really torn on this one, honestly. I went back and forth a few times. I ultimately went Chargers, actually, because I feel like Jameis got away with a few last week, and I kind of feel like the Chargers come down with one or two, as you talked about, but I think this is probably one of the closer games of the week.
Yeah, I have Chargers as well, and it's because for as much as I love Jameis, it's just really hard to fully hit your wagon to Jameis, especially against good pass defenses, because you just know he's liable for a few like crippling errors. Could have and should have been the case in that Ravens game that they won. And so to me, I find the Chargers the much more trustworthy team, and the team where the formula is a lot more clear. But the Browns have juice, and they're at home, and so there's a world where like the first two Chargers drives with 3 and outs are getting a ton of pressure, and then this thing just goes thermonuclear because they feel good again for the first time in a while.
All right, Commanders Giants. I'm soloing here. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this one. I think the Commanders offense is a terrible matchup for the Giants defense, or benefits the Commanders. Giants defense can't stop the run. They can't stop explosives. Those are the two things that Commanders I think are very good at. I do want to focus a little bit briefly though on the other side of the ball, because I haven't talked about this yet. I've talked a lot about the Commanders offense, and I assume you agree with me about that matchup. The Commanders defense.
Dan Quinn?
Up to 24th in DVOA now after a very rough start to the year. Listen, Johnny Newton, who I loved pre-draft, a great case study in you never want to only draft positions of need, because you lose. Because when they drafted it, everyone's like, "What? Don't they need edge? Right? You're so loaded, a defensive tackle." Well, John Allen goes down, and he comes in and he balled out against Chicago. A lot of the guys are playing well, though. Blue Vu Chin, hipster favorites of many years. What are you seeing from this, just kind of generally from this Commanders defense? Do you see sustainable improvement?
Yes. I think it's so Dan Quinn coded. There's like a life cycle of Dan Quinn, right? Where Dan Quinn gets to a defense, and what does every defender say? Man, he lets us play fast. He keeps it simple. We understand the calls. We understand the checks. Like the menu is short, and we're free to run. We can play at high speeds. We can penetrate. We can disrupt. We can make plays. Like Frankie Louvu, man. When Frankie joined this defense, I was like, I do not get it at all. Like, this is the most. We have our defensive line. We have our linebackers defense. There's no crossover between the positions. Frankie Louvu is the king of crossover between the positions. How's this going to work? And it's just been deploy Frankie Louvu systems, all systems go. He's just got a turbo pack strapped to his back, and he's flying at the football. The Newton, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, the level of disruptiveness that they're able to get in the box, right? We're just, okay, we might not be perfect in gap sound, and there might be easy ways to beat our defense, but if we just win one block here, we make this run up the bubble a little bit more, we make this pass a little bit shorter, like we'll be fast and we'll be effective. By year 3, year 4, Dallas, Atlanta, there's going to be a lot of like, all right, teams have kind of figured out how to solve X, Y, and Z. So this is the life cycle of Dan Quinn. It feels great in the early stages. The thing that I think is most impressive and important to me is that in previous iterations of this defense, both when it was still Jack Del Rio and even early on with Dan Quinn, it was, okay, we know we're going to get your corners on islands and we can take care of these guys, right? If we can just win one-on-ones. Benjamin St. Juste still out there. He's honestly had a couple good weeks. He's kind of up and down as a player, but Mikey Sainer still, the rookie out of Michigan, they drafted to be a nickel. He's playing outside. He's playing well. And then Noah Igbenogany, who bounced around the league, was a first-round bust. He's playing the nickel for them. Those two guys have played good football right now. They are covering. They are sticky. They are attacking the football. That's where I think the most eye-popping move has been in that secondary, which is playing pretty well.
A lot of players playing their best football right now. Do I think it's sustainable against like good offenses? No,
Yeah,
but I don't think
it's
the
worth
Giants are a
remembering
good
the Ravens
offense.
had like a very sleepy 30 points against the Commanders, but they just kind of like managed their way down the field, right? This is a disruption based defense. On base plays, you can kind of get after them.
Where I get worried is when we're talking about the Eagles. Now that the Eagles are back to being a fully operational battle station, I think that's going to be a really tough matchup for them
Mhm.
within their own division. But again, not their problem this
Yeah.
week is they get the New York Giants. So I imagine we both have the Commanders winning this one with ease.
Yeah, I do. I am looking forward to the Dante Fowler sack. I'm looking forward to the Dante Fowler sack and the Dan Quinn defense in 2034 and in 2044 and 2054 and for the rest of time.
Pats Titans, all you, baby.
Why did I get this? Is so okay. So we don't know who's starting at quarterback for either team, which makes it very impossible to talk about at this time. Drake May was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday, given his concussion. Will Levis was a limited participant in practice with his shoulder injury. So it might be Jacoby or Drake versus Will or Mason Rudolph. I don't know what to do with any of this. Here's what I do know: the Titans' defense is probably the only good unit in this game. Right? They've shown now, like even against that Lions team, they gave up 50 points. But if you look at that box score, like
It's very
so
misleading.
so many turnovers, so many short fields, right? Anytime the Lions actually started a drive, like at the 30, it didn't go well, except for that one 70-yard Jahmyr Gibbs run. So the Titans defense is a good unit. The key for this game is the Pats defense has to be able to step up and go punch for punch, right? Because like this is going to be low scoring. If you're going to steal a win here against a good Titans defense, you have to be able to keep this thing manageable. You can't let the Titans get like, all those Calvin Ridley free access plays and Tony Pollard 20 touches for 100 yards. Like the Titans have enough on offense that they can put it on your team, put you in a clear pass, and then that defense is very well equipped to handle it. And so despite the fact that the Pats defense is like bottom 10 in every single metric, this is the sort of game you got to step up for, especially if your backup quarterback is in. You should get turnovers against either Levis or Rudolph, get short fields, keep this thing close.
I posted this somewhere. This was an NGS little factoid. Levis and Rudolph have yet to complete a game with positive EPA this season.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I got asked about Callahan, and like I was a Titans fan, basically just being like, I heard Callahan was this offensive mastermind. What's happening? And it's like, man, the world outside of Joe Burrow is a cold and dark place. It really is. Like Callahan is trying to do a lot of my quarterback will get me to the right read stuff. And it's just like, man, like, yeah, I know Joe did. But like, here's the thing about Joe. A little different than Will Levis and Mason Rudolph in terms of the speed of the decisions. The pre-snap recognition is a big thing. The amount of times Rudolph and Levis drop back and they don't know where to look until it's a little bit too late. Like Joe never ran into that problem. I want to fully reserve judgment on Callahan and what he's trying to do in Tennessee until this offensive line goes from absolutely prohibitively unplayable
It's
to
not gonna happen though.
yeah,
They've
yeah.
invested so much in it. This is tough for me to pick. I really do not love the matchup on the line of scrimmage when the Patriots have the football, though. I want to pick New England if May plays or if either quarterback plays, but I can't get over. I just have a feeling it's going to be tough sledding for them on offense, regardless. Um, I might end up going Titans in this one, which is wild.
No,
After
I think the Titans win this game. I think
they
there's
just
one
beat the
good unit,
Jets,
and it's the Titans
yeah.
defense, and they win it. Uh,
Okay.
if it's May, I will say, because like I'm expecting it to be Brissett. It is a concussion. Week turnaround is tough. If it is May, you're interested to see what things can look like spread and shred, because with some of the secondary injuries the Titans have been dealing with, like Jarvis Brownlee has seen a lot of snaps, and Daryl Baker's seen a lot of snaps. You can get after those guys if you spread it out, which is what they do when May's in there. And so could be a game where Keishon Boutte and Demario Douglas in this passing game has enough sparks. But again, I'm not expecting May if I had to guess.
Cowboys Falcons. So I'm looking at the Falcons. I wrote Falcons. You got to score 28 points. That's where I set the number to win this one.
The total in this game is 52.5, one of the biggest totals we've had the entire season.
Yeah,
And it's gone up all week. Healthy.
I think both of these offenses match up well with both these defenses. Obviously, it's been pretty ugly for the Cowboys offense in recent weeks. I foresee this being a bounce back opportunity for them on that side of the ball. So Atlanta needs to firmly take control of this one. Fortunately for them, they do match up very well with the Cowboys defense in a number of respects. Obviously, on the ground, we know what the Cowboys' run defense is. We know that the Cowboys' run defense, it's not even worth saying, wow, how well do they defend outside zone, which is what
Mhm.
the Falcons run. They
I did
don't.
look. Actually pretty good. They're 13th in the league
I
and
don't care.
13th
I don't
best.
care.
Yards per
I don't care.
carry outside zone
Do not
interest.
care.
No, not for you. Okay.
Do not care. Do not care. Um, I did, this is a Cowboy run defense that So I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Joe Mixon, that stuff rate, right? Which is basically, are you stopping runs in their tracks before the line of scrimmage? They're the only team in the NFL with a stuff rate below 10%. This defensive line, this interior of the defense, it's so bad, Ben. It's so bad. And I've seen Bijan turn runs where he's contacted by two players behind the line of scrimmage into positive runs. What's it going to look like when he's not contacted at all? Pretty good. The other thing, I mean, everything that the Falcons are doing well right now with Kirk Cousins and this group of pass catchers attacking vertically with Pitts. Yes, it happened. I believe I questioned that a few weeks ago with you. Drake London,
Every good Kyle
deployment.
Pitts play makes me so happy. He's such a fun player to watch. He's good.
I just don't think that the Cowboys have it in them. I mean, I guess Micah will probably play in this one, I'm guessing.
The hope is that he does. Deron Bland also, who's their corner 2, high interception player, has been out for the entire season. He's been activated. The hope is they're getting him back. So there are defensive horses coming. I think that I can talk myself into some worlds where the Cowboys defense has a good day against the Falcons. The Falcons offense to me is the most fragile offense in the league, right? They only run outside zone. They don't run anything else, right? Kirk only throws from the pocket. They don't do anything else. We talked a lot in week 1 about, if they're under center, they do this, and then pistol, they do that. And they've done a slightly better job melding those together. They're still pretty siloed league-wise, but it's not even like the formational tendencies. It's just that they have a very small menu of things that they do well. And if you can beat that menu, they cannot get to a second reaction play.
Seattle did it. The formula for Dallas, which I hate as a Seahawks fan, it gives me no pleasure to say this. Those defenses have more in common now than they don't in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, is what Seattle did, right? Because the Falcons offense doesn't run play action, so they weren't able to take advantage of the run pass conflict that other teams have against the Seahawks defense, that other teams have against the Cowboys defense. So if you can actually go to work with your pass rush against this group, knowing that Kirk Cousins isn't moving, knowing that it's not play action, you can stop this offense.
Yeah.
However, I just don't see them stopping them on the ground. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're good against outside zone. They're not good in this one.
But if you have a real fast linebacking core, like that's good. You let go and run now. Yeah, I agree.
Would you like? I don't know what the Bijan yardage total in this is.
I'm gonna guess it's 83.5. Let's go. Look.
I mean, I just don't see them stopping him.
Man, probably lower because of the amount of carries they give Algier. So my key for this game, as I go to look for the Bijan number, is as the Cowboys defense, you've got to get to Cousins' spot, right? Cousins right now is the 5th best quarterback in the league by EPA per dropback when unpressured. When he is pressured, he goes down to 35th out of 42 quarterbacks. When pressured, he has the 3rd lowest time to throw. He still has not scrambled once, and he is 31st in ADOT, right? If he feels some heat, he has to get the ball out because he can't move. He gets it out underneath, and it is not an effective play, okay? And so the Cowboys, not a good defense, but when they succeed, it is with pressure. It is with winning with the front. If Micah comes back in this game, that's a big deal. So far on the season, the Cowboys are 8th in total pressure rate, but over the last 4 weeks, they've been 17th because they haven't had Micah and obviously no DeMarcus Lawrence as well. And so return Micah to this game. This is not a really great Falcons offensive line in terms of pass protection. They've had the injuries at center. Get a little Osa Digazua going. Get a little Marshawn Nealon going if he's back. I think the Cowboys can have a better day on defense against the Falcons than people expect. I really do.
Do you think it could play out like Seattle?
So the Seattle game is tricky because, like, by the numbers, the Falcons should have had like 24 points. And they had 14 because they had like bad turnovers and bad red zone rate. I think it can turn out more so like that. I think it could be like a low 20 scoring game for the Falcons because you're going to lose Darnell Mooney versus Trevon Diggs in isolation, Drake London in isolation. They're going to give you those one-on-ones, and Kirk will just black out and throw them, and they'll be accurate. You'll hit the separation, you'll hit the timing. So they're going to get some points. I think you can get enough stops. Falcons suck in 3rd and long. They're terrified of it. They avoid it at all costs because they can't do anything in the drop back passing game. Kirk can't move. And so to me, like, I think you can get enough stops that it's like, yeah, they score 20. You as the Cowboys score 27. You win the game.
I use that game as the paradigm because it's like Bijan did run for a pretty significant amount against Seattle. So it's like, I don't see a world in which Dallas stops him on the ground, but there is a world in which it doesn't matter if they're able to tighten up in the red zone. And, if you just get them into one 2nd and 10, and then all of a sudden you're cooking with gas if your pass rush is healthy again.
Bijan is set at 72 and a half for his total rushing yards. Bijan is the Derrick Henry of turning a 3-yard loss into a 5-yard gain. Like what Derrick Henry does once he's 10 yards down the field, where just the rush yards expectation is out of this world. That's Bijan behind the line of scrimmage. The amount of dead plays that he resurrects is disgusting.
Imagine if those plays are never dead to begin with because you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, dude. I don't know. That's why I struggle with picking the Cowboys in this one. I just think that I hear you about the pass rush, but I could just completely imagine Atlanta taking control of that football and never relinquishing it. Then, Dak forces a couple up the seam, and there's Jesse Bates. And suddenly they're in drop back situations.
This would be such a nice game for the Cowboys to have any functionality running the football. But alas, it's so
It sounds like you're leaning Cowboys. I was leaning Falcons.
I lean Dallas in this one. I do.
Might have sold me. I don't know. Okay. Broncos, Ravens. Let's wrap here. You are talking about the Broncos, and I'm talking about the Ravens. I hope you're going to talk about the Broncos offense.
Absolutely not. No. The Broncos offense, they're still bottom 10 in every metric we have for success, for success throwing the football. They're still bottom 10, bottom 12 in every metric we have for success running the football. And they had a wonderful day against a pretty much empty cupboard of a Carolina Panthers defense. It just doesn't move the needle for me. I have seen too many times Bo Nix struggle in every consistent drop against the Saints, against the Chargers, against the Seahawks. Just when he isn't put in a situation where he has to throw the football, he has to hit tight windows, he has to do it with timing. The results are not good over large samples. I understand that there are 3 reps in the fourth quarter of games when they're down by 2 scores that you can tweet at me 10,000 times, Broncos fans. I'm ignoring all of them.
Salty.
I got woken up this morning by a call from my brother, who is a Broncos fan, complaining about the amount of Broncos fans that he follows that are mad at me.
And I was like, brother, a Broncos fan,
because he wanted to root for whatever teams he wanted to when he was a kid, and he liked the Jake Plummer Broncos on Madden, and so he became a Broncos fan. And 2 years later, they got Peyton Manning, and I was like, all right, that's annoying. But anyway, yes, I'm at war with the Broncos fans. Whatever, that's fine by me.
During the Peyton Manning Broncos era,
he's much younger than me.
Okay.
My key for this game.
Sorry.
The Broncos have to dominate at the defensive line. This Ravens offense has looked a juggernaut, right? When we look at how they perform, pass, run, against man, against zone, late downs, everything they do well. Lamar creates so much. They've got such a nice blend of the Todd Monken offense with the original Lamar offense, and they can throw to the backs, they can throw to the tight ends and receivers. They've just got everything. The one thing that really is a bee in the bonnet of this offense is when they're losing in the trenches, right? Because Lamar's going to beat you with some scrambles, some escaping, some pressure. It's going to happen, especially when you play man coverage. You're going to rip off some big runs. You got to take it. It's water over the bow. You got to take it. You're going to lose in some misdirection runs, right? You're going to be running a stunt. You're going to be penetrating. And all of a sudden, it turns out it's a Zay Flowers handoff. He's going to go for 15. It's going to happen. But this offensive line, which has been playing better, is still a below average unit. Broncos are 3rd in the league in pressure rate along the defensive line. They're a top 5 unit in pass rush win rate and top 10 in rush, but run defense win rate. I can never remember the win rate names. They are so good, and they're good with unique players, with the John Franklin Myers, with the Jonathan Cooper, with a Zach Allen. So you can go and you can hunt some matchups. You can go and you can find a 1-on-1 for Daniel Falele. You can go and test Roger Rosengart in the right tackle, who I think has been good, but also struggled for power. You can get one of your big long rushers against him in clear pass downs. This needs to be a game where you are consistently resetting the line of scrimmage, where you are funking up the pocket for Lamar, and you're putting Henry in a spot where he's not consistently getting free runs down the field. If you can't do that, I know your man coverage is great, but this Ravens team just has a lot of team speed. They get rid of the ball quickly underneath, and they make you tackle in space. You're going to lose to that over time. And so to me, it's all about the trenches for the Broncos.
Yeah, you're hoping for a pretty similar. I'm with the Ravens on my side. I'm same side of the ball is what I'm talking about. So the Broncos, you're kind of hoping for a similar. It's not script, but a lot of similarities in what you saw last week with, against a Browns defense that has a lot of similarities to what the Broncos do in terms of all the cover one they play. The Broncos blitz a lot more, but their ability to get pressure, to kind of take the Ravens out of their usual bread and butter concepts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was kind of frustrated last week watching the Ravens offense. I felt like I felt the same way I did at times last year, where it felt like they got away from the play action. They barely ran play action. It felt like they were hunting for big plays a little bit too much.
Mhm.
And because the margins of error were shrinking, the drops were very meaningful. Like there were too many drives where they couldn't get back on track. I actually thought Lamar played well. He had a couple misses, but
I
by
agree.
and large, he played well. So if you're Denver, I think you're hoping for something similar. You want Lamar, when you blitz him, you want him hunting for big plays, right? You don't want them running play action. You don't want them dominating line of scrimmage. You don't want them checking it down too, the way that they have and taking profits so successfully for much of the year. You want that pressure on them to feel like. So for the Ravens, I wrote, don't do that.
Right.
I mean, the Broncos' run defense is exceptional. Zach Allen's amazing this year.
Mhm.
Still, you should be able to run the ball on them. I really believe that. And then with the play action game, this is something I've kind of talked about with the Ravens all year. Like, nothing wrong with 7 yards, man. 7 yards, 8 yards. Like, it was too much big play hunting last week. I'm very interested to see if they implement Deontay Johnson, who they traded for. I think it's been interesting watching all these kind of wide receiver trays and watching them enter the lineups and seeing that because it's very obvious none of these receivers are coming in with their full route trees and they're being integrated midweek. And I think Deontay Johnson brings a lot to this offense just because he is the most traditional route runner that they have. I don't think we see it this week though, but damn, I would love it if you were able to use him on the short intermediate stuff that I felt like was missing last weekend.
Yeah. I agree with you on Deontay in terms of like kind of more traditional looks, because when the Ravens get man coverage, they really want to throw the ball to Zay.
Yeah.
And I like Zay, but I also can't stand Zay. Right. There's stuff that he does that's just in terms of route timing and in terms of contested catch and getting back to the ball and the catch radius stuff where you're just like, this is not when you are facing Patrick Surtain, this is not the guy you want your bucket getter to be, right? Ideally, height, weight, speed, body type, route composition, time, like that. You wanted that to be Rashad Bateman. It's been a couple years. You've had some flashy moments. We've never really gotten that ball over the line here. And so you introduced Deontay. I don't think there's enough of an impact here, on less than 1 week turnaround. If you are the Broncos, the thing that you are rooting for beyond all else is that they make this a Zay Flowers game. Please, oh please, go to your 12 personnel stuff and go to your 13 personnel stuff and then get these heavy boxes and decide, let's throw our Zay Flowers screens. Let's throw our Zay Flowers deep comebacks. Because again, we'll lose to a couple, but Surtain against Zay over 4 quarters, like that's the matchup we want you to try to hunt so we can win that matchup. I think this is a game where I'd like to see likely get reintroduced as the primary target. Yeah. Mark Andrews, who I think has been playing better after, a really bad primetime debut. Like remember, no Alex Singleton. It's Cody Barton and Justin Strenad. Like the second level is where this Broncos team is weak. So I'd want to go 12 and 13, but do so to go spread and to put these linebackers in space and then beat them with my pass catching tight ends.
I love when they use the tight ends against the blitz. I mean, because that's the other thing, right? Like Lamar has been so much better against the blitz this year, statistically. So much
second in success rate behind only Mahomes.
Yeah. So, and a lot of that has been to Flowers, but I'm with you because of the matchup this week. I think you want to go into this with like a very coherent plan where you're not hunting for big plays against the blitz as they have at times. And you're just, I would say likely Andrews 8 yards, that's all. 8 yards,
Yeah.
Like,
and then you're in avoid mistakes mode, which like Lamar's been better at this year, but you also this is a very aggressive defense and they do blitz and Lamar holding the ball in the pocket and some of the spray throws. Like, all right, I could see, I'm very surprised. This line is 9.5 points. I think that's too big. Like the Broncos defense is going
9.5. Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, the Broncos defense is going to get theirs. And then I have my concerns about the Broncos passing game, but this Ravens defense, the Broncos are going to get theirs.
Why do you so? The play action thing really bothered me last week because it was their lowest use of play action of the entire season. And it wasn't a game script thing. And it was the Browns. I thought for sure you would see a robust play action pass package out of 12 personnel against the
Why do you feel
Browns
like it should have been play action against the Browns?
Because I feel like those linebackers can get nosy. You talked about it. We talked about the Browns, right? Playing linebacker in this Jim Schwartz defense. They are coming downhill. They are stacking the box against the run. We were watching them. They were very, very keyed in to Derrick Henry all game long, and with, I thought, some pretty good success. I felt like there was an opportunity there. I don't have the Browns defense's numbers against play action. That might be what you're looking up right now.
Yeah.
But my feel is that the Ravens do match up well with them in that way.
Yeah. So the Browns last year were best defense against play action and against non-play action dropbacks in the league. This year, by EPA per dropback, they are 16th in the league against play action and 22nd against non-play action. They are worse against non-play action. One of the I don't always like play action against the Browns defense, and this goes back to the Kyle Shanahan thing and like why is Shanahan's offense always so bad against the Browns? I like play action against defenses that ask their linebackers to do two things. You have to step down against the run and you have to get back here against the pass. And the Schwartz just unhinges his linebackers. He just fly, just run. We will deal with the other stuff behind you. Don't worry about it. So I think because like, my joke was always Kyle Shanahan makes your linebackers wrong. Jim Schwartz is kind of like, my secret is I'm always wrong. My secret is I'm always angry, right? I don't love play action against the Browns because they just want to play man coverage, stick up there and press you. Like that, it doesn't flabbergast them as much as it does other defenses.
I just felt like those I don't know. When going into that one, I felt pretty good about the Ravens tight ends against their safeties linebacker, but whatever. They lost. All right, let's take a quick break. Come back. Oh, sorry. I'm on the Ravens. That point spread is way too big, but I still think the Ravens win.
I think it's Ravens as well. This is if you want me to shut up about Bo Nix and about the passing game, the Ravens pass defense is bad. This is the sort of game to get back there, get every ball out in 2.75 seconds and matriculate your way down the field. If there's somebody who keeps responding in the comments and is telling me to stop saying matriculate, I'm not going to stop saying matriculate. Matriculate your way down the field. They should be able to. I'm excited to see it.
I don't love. You saw Michael Pierce, by the way, out for the season. Ravens really need to add, I would say, across the defensive line. I was thinking edge, but they also need defensive tackle depth now because this has been a very good run defense, but that's a pretty big loss for them. So they do have good players, but I think
Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey both did practice this week, so the hope is that
that's why I'm not. When I was saying earlier in the week, they really need to add pass rush and folks pointed to their secondary. The secondary's been hurt. Secondary's fine. I actually think the secondary is not the problem at all.
It's weird because like they benched Marcus Williams there for a day and Eddie Jackson went in and like Jalen Armour-Davis played and it's like, all right, that's why they're bad against the Browns. But also over the course of the season, like Brandon Stevens, like I don't know. I think it's going to be better. I do, but
they didn't get pressure against the Browns. I mean, the Ravens defense pressure is to me the single biggest issue. I understand there's some communications issues on the back end, but those will be fixed. The pressure will not be fixed.
Trade for Jadeveon Clowney. It's 2023 again, baby.
Okay. After the break, we get to a very exciting afternoon slate. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, Raiders Bengals. This is me. I'll be quick.
Crazy to go a really exciting afternoon slate and then open Raiders Bengals. That's awful for the listeners.
I am curious to see. Okay, so what did Joe Burrow say? I got to go 7 of 9 or whatever to. Oh, buddy. I don't even. I mean, obviously the Bengals need to win this to stay alive. The Raiders have kind of they're out. Man. The Vegas run game against the Cincinnati run defense. What is the opposite of iron on iron? Iron sharpens iron.
Right. It is stone dulls stone.
Foil.
Movable object versus stoppable force.
Kind of the same thing on the other side of the ball. I'm curious to see if the Bengals can run the ball at all because one of the few run defenses worse than the Bengals run defense is the Raiders run defense. I'm not saying that they'll have to because if Jamar Chase and T. Higgins play, I think this Bengals offense will be fine. I'm just interested in seeing if let me just say this. This is my key for the Bengals. Can you run the ball at all? Can you stop the run at all? Because it's not going to get a lot easier than it does this week.
Yeah, there's still question marks about T. Higgins' availability. This offense has been just a lot worse without T on the field now over like a decently large sample. And then, Bengals defense, man. I like coming into that Eagles game, oh man, like they're not giving up a ton of explosive plays, and like maybe they can keep a blanket on the passing game, and then it's going to be a Saquon game, whatever. And then they just got lit up by Jalen Hurts standing in the pocket for 4 minutes. They had 3 pressures in that game. Three.
You made Fred Johnson look
Trey
like
Henderson was up against Fred Johnson and had 1 pressure on 13 snaps. If Trey is not winning, then There's nothing right now in their pass defense.
You've seen the meme of the Cheetah holding the door with the lock. That Cheetah
Yeah.
was Henriksen, and I feel like it snapped.
That when I watch the Bengals, I'm the you are just not serious people meme. Like that's what I always feel like Logan would be like, this is just not real.
Defense
at all.
is rough. However, I think they will win because of Joe Burrow.
Yes, I think they will win. I do not think they have playoff aspirations.
Bears Cardinals. This game has a lot of juice now. A lot of juice. You take the Bears. I take the Cardinals. You can go first.
I gotta find my Bears. Oh, there we are. All right.
I have a lot of notes on this game.
Yes, this is a cool one. My main note for the Bears is to not lose to the explosive play. You look really good in terms of how you match up against this Cardinals team. You are a high success rate defense. You are a high pressure defense. You're going to be able to, rally down and tackle all the quick Trey McBride throws and the quick Michael Wilson throws. And you have the corner and Jalen Johnson who can handle a guy like Marvin Harrison. You're going to be able to get off the field on third downs, get off the field in the red zone. Again, the Bears still have not given up more than 21 points in a game since November 19th. Last year, we were almost at a full calendar year since there was a game over 21 points. But the one thing that the Bears do, and some of this is because they're so good on base plays, but they are a bad explosive pass team, right? They give up, they're a bad explosive run and pass team. They're fourth worst in terms of explosive run rate surrendered, ninth worst in explosive pass rate surrendered. It's the run rate that's particularly meaningful against the Cardinals because the Cardinals offense is at its best when they're chunking you on the ground. There's nothing this team wants to do more than to put Trey McBride and Tip Ryman and Elijah Higgins out there, get under center with James Conner, and just be bigger than you for 8 yards a pop, 10 yards a pop, not a pop, but for 10-yard runs and for 12-yard runs, and to stay ahead of the sticks that way. That's the ideal for this offense. And that's something that they can do against the Bears, because they're going to go 13 personnel. The Bears are going to put their two excellent linebackers out there on the field in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, but then they're going to put the nickel out there, right? They're going to stay in nickel, and that nickel is hopefully
Wait. You think that the Bears match the Cardinals 13 personnel with nickel?
Probably 12. 13 they'll put Sanborn on the field, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry to stop you. I am basically cued into the exact same matchup, which is when the Cardinals trot out their big groupings, do the Bears try?
Because the Bears do have a base now because Sanborn is so good.
They play a lot of base. I looked up because curiosity. They primarily play 12 and 13 personnel with base. However, they are very good at stopping the run out of nickel as well. I mean, the Bears defense is very good. This is just like a big boy matchup, man. Like the Cardinals offense versus the Bears defense. And I had a similar note to basically what you said, which is when you come out in those heavy groups, can you hit explosives on the way you did last week against this Bears defense? Because they're much better against explosive passes than the Dolphins, who we talked about earlier. But I do think that they finally hit on something in terms of how they're using Marv. Love seeing Marv on crossers. Finally.
Marv was targeted on 3 crossing routes, all right, in week 8. They were his first crossing route target since week 3.
Why?
It has been over a month.
You know what? It's fine. It's in the past. It's over it.
Hopefully. What?
3 crossers
in week 3, we thought it was in the past, and it was not.
Yeah, right. But the other thing is, dude, I think McBride is a problem for this Bears defense. I know it's lofty to compare him to Travis Kelce. They are not the same player, and you don't really want to compare everyone to Travis Kelce. But the way he finds voids in zone coverage does, vertically, especially, like right down the field, it does remind me a little bit of Travis Kelce.
It's funny, because I had a different tight end comparison for a different athletic reason, which probably just means Trey McBride is very, very good at football. But McBride had that one catch against the Dolphins where he caught it up against the sideline, and most tight ends are going out of bounds, and he changed direction, he kept his balance, and he picked up like 10 yards, and I was like, oh, that feels very George Kittle-y to me in terms of yards after the catch. Like that ability to just turn up field and to quickly transition into a runner. Like McBride's all that in a bag of chips. He's something.
He moves is really cool. And he's got great hands, he's got good body control. One thing I find interesting in this, Ben, that I would love to hear your thoughts about, the Cardinals face single high at a very low rate. They
Mhm.
face the second most split safety in the NFL, and I think that it would be surprising to people because you think of this team as, they run the ball and probably a lot of teams are dropping a safety into the box against them. That actually hasn't been the case. Now you're going up against the Bears defense that does play a ton of single high. So I guess my question for you is, why do you think I have my theories? Why do you think that's been the case with Arizona? And do you think that the Bears just do what they do in this game? Because that also factors into the explosives question that we were talking about. Because there
Yeah.
will be, like, I know I was talking about Mark. First of all, I love him on crossers, but he's going to have one-on-one opportunities down the field if the Bears do what they normally do.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at average defenders in the box faced, because the thing about too high and run defense is that, and Mike McDonald had a great quote about this week, the Seahawks
Okay.
defense coordinator. You can be in too high and be gapped out. He was talking about the
Yep.
Bills defense. You can be too high, but you can include both those two deep safeties in the run fit, and if you're playing quarters or some of its iterations. And accordingly, like if you're if you're a defense facing the Cardinals, and let's say you want to be a heavy zone team, which is what I would want to be if I was facing the Cardinals, then yeah, I'm going to be at a point where I want to have two deep safeties. I'll just bring them low, close to the line of scrimmage.
Right.
I'll be playing quarters. I'll include them in the fit. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is what Jonathan Gannon consistently brings up, which is that teams want to have a safety over Marv, right? Again, if I'm a defensive coordinator anticipating playing the Cardinals offense, and I see Marv on all those isolation routes, and I see him, running that vertical outside the numbers, unless I have one of 10, 12 dudes at corner, I probably want to be able to keep a safety over there. So I think that there are other considerations that wrinkle into why you might play more too high against Cardinals. Other thing as well, if you're doing multiple tight end sets under center, I go bare front. If I go bare front, I can go too high, right? And so I have the ability to just put extra body on the line and solve the problem that way.
Yeah. The Marv thing has jumped out to me because there have been a lot of games where he has gotten safety help. But I think your point about the depth of those safeties is really important, which is, again, why it is paramount that Kyler Murray punishes you. If teams are going to drop, if they're going to play like a quarters look against you and that safety is coming down, you can beat it if you're willing and able to make those throws down the field. But again, the Bears don't do that. The Bears play ton of cover three, and I think they're going to in this game. So for Arizona, like I want to see those cover three beaters on the menu downfield. I can't start this is not Cardinals. I mean, you and I kind of coalesced on this as both of our talking points. This is not you're not going to dink and dunk your way to success in this one. You gotta run the ball and you gotta punish them with explosives.
Yeah, you do not have the tackle breakers for that against the Bears.
Good point too.
The Cardinals' eighth highest rate of loaded boxes faced so far this year. That's against both the run and the pass. That's just all plays agnostic of what's called. And then safety depth is now loaded for me, and they are facing it's about average safety depth. And so yeah, there's something there. I don't know what the totality of it is. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring up those nickel sets though is because the Bears are so good at tackling, right? Okay, you want to dink and dunk. They love to get the James Conner on DBs, right? They love to run him not between the tackles, but wind him outside and try to get him on DBs. Usually the Bears are like, hell yeah, brother. Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson. Well, Kyler Gordon would not have practiced on Wednesday. They had a walkthrough, but would not have practiced with a hamstring. Jaquan Brisker, who's an excellent young safety, got a concussion on October 9th, and he is still do not practice on October 30th. So we're just hoping Brisker's okay. But he's an important player for them in terms of that safety who plays in the box. And so there are some of the screen worlds, some of the, pin pull runs and the wind back runs that the Cardinals love that get Connor out of the box. Those can start to get a little bit weird if the Bears are undermanned in the secondary once again. So I can see a lot of run, constraint play, and those are effective and they're hitting explosives. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you try to go over the top on this team.
Looking back against the game against the Commanders, the Bears defense played still a fair amount of nickel in that one, played base 28% of the time and had their best success rate in that. I mean, they're very good. They're very good in it.
And the Bears
I
defense
feel
typically really good against tight ends overall, right? They just do a nice job of forcing those throws underneath and making those tackles. And so if you want to live in your, Trey McBride to the flat world, you can. I don't think you're going to put enough on Chicago to survive.
Again, Trey McBride vertically is where I think he's. I just, yeah. I mean, if you're Arizona, this is the formula. You what you saw last week against Miami, be that always on offense is. I know it's but we haven't even talked about the other side of the ball. Cardinals defense, not very good. Did get Darius Robinson back. I don't know if you saw that, but we'll see what they
Mhm.
get out of that. I actually think the Bears offense will have a bounce back game, which is why there's even more pressure on the Cardinals offense to produce. Who are you taking this one?
Yeah. Caleb had that great run. I'm taking the Bears. If you remember, Caleb had that great run against the Rams and then against the Panthers, against the Jaguars. It's like 0.5 EPA per drop back. Everyone's like, Caleb is elite. And everybody was like, well, no, like he's playing against all these bad defenses. Like we have to see him against a real defense. He has like a shaky day against Washington. I thought the film was actually pretty good. It's just numbers wise wasn't that great. Lo and behold, against the Cardinals, right? So like 4 of Caleb's last 5 games are against probably the 4 worst pass defenses in the league. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a game where they can get back to their base stuff, right? We don't need any silly throws behind line of scrimmage and some of the goofy stuff. Like, yeah, they can run their screens. They're good at their screens, but in general, put Rome, Keenan, and DJ into the concept. You're not going to get a lot of pass rush from this Cardinals front. So Caleb's going to have time behind that line. He's going to be able to make them pay. And so I think it's Bears, and I would feel really, really good about this if it were at home. Eberflus's team has not traveled well in his time there as the head coach, and they are in Arizona. But this should be the sort of game that, like, if the Bears are a legit playoff team, this is the sort of game that they should like win comfortably. And I would like to see that.
I'm taking the Cardinals again. As a Seahawks fan, I would want the Bears to win, obviously, but I just feel like that this offense has found something. It's been so, I know they've been hit or miss, and I came into the season so confident about them, but it feels like they are finally understanding how to like integrate Marvin Harrison Jr. into the actual flow of the
I'll believe
offense.
it. I'll believe it after a month.
I
will not believe
know
it
it's
after
been
a
up
game.
and down. It's been really annoying, but he's such a good football player.
Cardinals beat the Rams in week 2 by 31 points. Since then, 1 point win over the Niners, 2-point win over the Chargers, 1 point win over the Dolphins. All 3 of those wins, game-ending field goals.
Yeah, the Bears struggled against the Washington defense, so it's not.
I thought we liked the Washington defense. We were doing that like 20 minutes ago.
Let's pump the. Oh, congratulations, the Bears, for beating the Jaguars, right? Who are the Panthers of the AFC. Speaking of the Jaguars, you got Jags Eagles. You don't have to devote too much time to this.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, can the Jaguars keep the scoring pace up, right? Are they going to be able to make this a close game by scoring on this Eagles defense? Eagles defense looking pretty good, and a nice Giants, Browns, Bengals now. Like, all right, I will say that those 3 teams, especially the Bengals without T, it's not exactly the toughest run, but now you're getting the Jaguars with no Christian Kirk. And Cam Robinson just got traded, and potentially there's no Brian Thomas. We don't necessarily know just yet. And so you're probably going to get a shorthanded offense again. The Eagles, under Vic Fangio, it's a lot too high. It's take away the explosive play. With Trevor Lawrence, as we've seen, he needs to be able to throw deep and hit deep throws to survive. So I don't think it's a good matchup for the Jags. It'd be great if they could just 15 carries to Tank Bigsby, 8 to Travis Etienne, who I think now should be the 1B to Bigsby's 1A, and like rip off a bunch of big runs. I think that might be your move. Slow this pass rush down, but short of getting that, I just don't think they score enough points on an Eagles team that, like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith against this secondary and against this defense is going to be gnarly stuff.
Sure, AJ Brown is number 1 right now in ESPN's receiver score.
Yeah. AJ Brown's averaging like 10 yards per route run or something. Like it's offensive how good he's been since he got back.
God, he's such an unbelievable football player.
I love the Eagles. They're such a fun team to root for. He's like, press the AJ Brown button. Oh, AJ Brown. Oh, Devontae Smith button. Saquon. It's so easy. You don't have to think about anything. It's amazing.
Yeah. But it does feel like there's been a little bit of an evolution in the run game I've talked about on this podcast, and with Brown, and when Brown and Smith are playing together, it doesn't even matter. They don't have Dallas Goedert. It doesn't matter. Grant Calcaterra, wide open. It's not. I mean, what are you gonna do? You know,
they're too talented. There's too much space. You have to be able to pressure Hurts. That's the weak point, right? Is if you can get him outside of the pocket, you get them out of their design passing game. They're not good when Hurts is scrambling and when he's pressuring, whatever. It's the Jags.
That's the thing, dude. I mean, God, last week, that when we were asked about like NFL Live, we were talking about the offense, because I had talked about the under center runs the week before, and I was like, this offensive line. The amount of time, again, the Bengals' pass rush is non-existent. Holy smokes, the amount of time Hurts had in that game. He was chilling. That's why the throw to Devontae Smith downfield, amazing pass by catch by Devontae Smith. Right?
Yeah.
It was a good pass. You will not see a cleaner pocket in the NFL.
It's
what he had on that.
There should be someone should run a Twitter account where they just post screenshots of pockets that the Eagles get. It's really like it. Nick Sirianni's offense, Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, Jalen Hurts. It's all Jeff Stoutland. It's been Jeff Stoutland the whole time,
I
man.
have
It's
not seen a pocket like that watching Seahawks football in
unreal.
maybe 15 years.
Right, and I have not seen a Geno Smith pocket watching Eagles football in a decade, and, like, I
Really.
literally mean a decade. They hired Stout in 2013. It has been ages since I've had to see that.
Okay. All right. Rams Seahawks, speaking of. So I feel like I keep getting Seahawks home games or something, but whatever. I am doing Seattle on this side. I do not believe the Seahawks defense can stop the Rams Death Star on offense. So I'm going to focus on the other side of the ball. Okay, so I'm not trying to be a broken record here with the play action stuff because but let me go back to a point you made about the Browns defense. And we had a little bit of like, can you get them with play action or not? I think you can this year, but I understand your point about what Jim Schwartz asked about linebackers. The Rams defense, you can absolutely get with play action. And if Seattle doesn't use a ton of play action in this game, I don't know what they're doing.
Okay. You want them under center from the gun?
Well, how freaking much has Geno Smith been under center this year? God.
Yeah, they're like dropping. I can find it.
Dude,
yeah.
last week, I don't think Walker had a single under center run. Granted, the game got out of hand, but that wasn't until really the second half. Maybe one? You could look it up. He was not under center at all.
Yeah, the Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks under center rate as a team is 28th in the league, and then design rush to their 11th, and just a drop back out of under center their 21st, and so it's a little bit
now. They are having a lot of difficulty marrying the run and the pass.
It's a lot of emotion happening right now,
and some of that is Ryan Grubb. A lot of it, I think, is just the offensive line and the fact that they're like, okay, we would love to put Geno Smith under center. We would love to boot him out. We would love to run under center play action, all of these things. However, we are scared that when he turns back to, he's going to get beheaded, right? So it's a lot easier to just ask him to sit back in the gun and distribute because at least then we know the best player, like he's got control of this thing.
Right.
The problem is it's not working because the offensive line is that bad. And against this particular Rams defense, you got to make it work this week, man. You got to figure out a way to get this under center run game going.
Yeah, it's very collegiate, right? It's very like, well, we don't need to hide what we're doing in terms of our running game versus our passing game. I'm pretty sure they were this way a little bit with Penix in Washington. I might be incorrect on that, but it was a little bit when they wanted to run, they just went pistol, or they went under center. When they wanted to pass, they went gun. It wasn't a problem because they were better than the other guys. So yeah, it's the NFL. You can't be
under center play action in Penix. But
play action they were good, but in terms of the siloing, like gun versus under center pistol, yeah. The other thing that they don't really do is they don't really put motion on a lot of their passing plays, right? Because they want to go hurry up and they want to be in the gun and they want to be spread. And the Rams suck against motion defensively, which is a very funny thing to do when your head coach is Sean McVay. You think you know a little bit more. This is kind of a big deal. So yeah, a lot of the pressure points that I think the Rams struggle for, the Seahawks aren't necessarily hitting too often this year in terms of their designed offense. Now, the Rams are really bad at dealing with the deep pass, and it would be a really nice game to have DK Metcalf for. Do we know? Yeah, Metcalf's playing this one. So I think the return of Metcalf can be nice. I will say, like, you probably got to score
shootout
35.
Shootout. We're not even talking about the other side of the ball. There's no hope.
Oh,
abandoned.
Mikey's on the other side of the ball. Okay, don't like it. Here's what the Rams need to do to win this game, Mina.
What do you think?
Yeah, Seahawks are so good against like we brought that Falcons game. The Seahawks are really great when they know they're getting pass. They are sixth in the league EPA per dropback non-play action, right? When Mike McDonald can call up some designer coverages, he can hide the linebackers and he can rotate some guys, send us some pressure. They are good. They just can't get to those downs because they can't stop the run and they can't stop the play action pass, and they're terrible against motion, and anything that you need to like react to and adjust to on the fly from the second level, it's just they are too slow and they don't understand their assignments, and there's just a lot of mistakes and a lot of busts. You are going against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how they approach the run game because the Seahawks the run defense is very bad, but they're particularly bad against outside zone, which is not really what the Rams do, right? The Rams do a lot of duo. They also last week you saw the split zone, so they'll run inside zone. I'll be interested in seeing because they mix it up in the rushing attack. I'll be interested in seeing, like, I know that's a little bit I feel like, what is the one thing that they're bad at? Like they don't
Yeah.
need to. They can just kind of stick to their bread and butter concepts. But I'll be interested in seeing because they have mixed up what they've been doing in the run game this year, week to week, a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing that is true of the Rams right now is that they like when they get into all their base stuff, 11 personnel with motion, whatever. They're really, really highly ranked in success rate. They're like the best rushing team, best success rate right now.
Not that explosive.
By EPA, not as good. And like the key is the missing explosives. And that's because Kyron, as good as he is not really like a choo-choo trained third level. I'm out running guys. Even Puka and Cooper, right? For as good as those players are, it's just and the way they get their targets, right? These quick hitters while they're moving horizontally, they don't go for a ton of explosives. The other issue is the pass protection, right? And when Seattle's defense wins, it's because Boye Mafe and Derek Hall are really, really good against those opposing tackles. And so the Rams are going to score on the Seahawks. They're going to move the football, but it's going to be 12-play drives. And that invites variance. It invites penalties and 1st and 20s, and it invites opportunities for sacks. And so I think they're going to have a great time moving the football. I also think the Seahawks are going to get enough stops, right? Not 5, but 3 drives where they're going to get them off the field. And that's where you need your offense to be able to go punch for punch in this one.
Ernest Jones revenge game?
Ernest Jones, save us.
Listen, dude, you know all this motion, you know? Yeah, I actually think that the Seahawks offense can move the ball on this Rams defense. They just really have to avoid 3 and outs. They got to find a way to do everything we're talking about. I'm going Rams just because that Rams offense terrifies the out of me.
Yeah, I think it's Rams as well. I think that we're in this division race and we've got our guys back. Like, I think that crest, that excitement lasts for a couple of weeks. I will say, yeah, and I also think that, we talk about Seahawks pass protection there a little bit. The young man Jared Verse is playing some football, all right? And I think that he's going to have a tough day against Gino. What?
Yeah, I was with Orlovsky on. He was like, this is the best defensive line, young defensive line.
Who said that?
Like, all right, Orlovsky. And I was like, pump the brakes. He dump truck David Quessenberry. Like, let's he's good.
Pump the brakes, he dump trucks David Quessenberry is a bar. That's an accidental Bronson.
Like, let's pump the brakes.
Versus good.
Darius Williams being back has been huge for them, by the way, because the secondary
field,
was like non-functional. Okay, Lions Packers. Jared Verse is very good. I'm just being a hater. Lions Packers. Is this the game of the week? I feel like we got 3 more. Okay. Yeah, this feels like the game of the week. So the last time these teams played was that Thanksgiving game where Jordan Love went nuclear, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Notably in that game, this was something I was trying to remember, like what went wrong for the Lions offense in moments. So what went wrong was the Packers pressured Jared Goff on 42% of dropbacks in that one. He struggled against pressure. So unfortunately we are not 100% on the Packers quarterback situation, right? Between Jordan Love, who hurt his groin last week. It's not a serious injury, but they do have a bye in week 10. So
yeah, Love did say to reporters after Wednesday practice, he said he's feeling optimistic and that it's realistic that he plays on Sunday. Now those are Jordan Love's words. So I don't know.
But I want to mention the bye because there is a world in which you sit him knowing that you've got this like recovery period, he can be 100% healthy. I don't know what happened. So we can talk about it both ways. I mean, so you are analyzing the Lions side of the equation. So what you got?
Protect the football. Just don't turn this thing over against this Packers defense. Of all the units in the league,
defense of destiny.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe it. The on dropbacks, the Packers lead the league with 15 takeaways. Fun. Lions are tied for second with 14, given the day that they just had against Mason Rudolph. But this defense is 30th in success rate against dropbacks. The Packers defenses, they're 3rd worst in the league. They're 5th in EPA. They give up space and they give up ground and they give up checkdowns. They give up throws to the middle of the field. And then they get to their own 15-yard line and pick the ball off. And it is nonsense. And I don't abide by it. The Packers are also more banged up, I think, outside of Jordan Love. 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen, that's Elkton Jenkins, Josh Myers, and Rasheed Walker, all did not practice on Wednesday. Josh Jacobs did not practice on Wednesday. And then 2 in the secondary, Jair Alexander and Evan Williams, the rookie safety, who's been playing very, very good ball.
Those 2 don't play.
Yeah. You've been so the Packers need the bye for Love and for a lot of reasons as well. When the Packers offense is at its best, it's with Josh Jacobs being a high volume player. There is no defense in the league right now that is better against opposing running games than the Detroit Lions. There's no defense in the league that is better against opposing pass catching backs, which Josh Jacobs kind of is, but not really, than the Detroit Lions are. The defensive front, just so freaking good. They're so big, just a big defensive front against the run. They're so fun to watch. I think it's a bad matchup for the Packers with the injuries. I think it's Lions all the way.
It's the injuries that really are scaring me in this one, because when Evan Williams went out, he's been a revelation this year. I feel like
so good.
We talked about Xavier McKinney, who's amazing, and obviously the turnovers. What does he have? Like, that was his 6th or 7th,
like 100th at this point. It's so ridiculous.
But when Williams went out last week, oh boy, Javon Bullard. It was a bit of a ride. So, and you're facing, I mean, if McKinney and Williams were playing, I would feel a lot better, because this Packers defense, they're kind of hard to figure out, and we can talk about that a little bit. But one thing that they have been very good is defending the middle of the field because of those players, right? And that's obviously their third DVOA and passes over the middle of the field. That is obviously where the Lions love to attack. If one of those players is out, suddenly you get a little bit more nervous, even if Xavier McKinney plays. The thing that, with the Packers defense, just to stick on that for a little bit, I mentioned that about pressure at the beginning, because they really aren't getting pressure this year. And then you had the Texans game where suddenly it felt like every single stunt worked, right? And they were just, Sean Gary was like running wild through that Texans offensive line. I think that was more about the Texans than the Packers.
Told me a lot more about the Texans.
I was thinking that because I was watching. They're trying stuff. They're trying, like, Halfley is out there, like, with throwing stunts and overloads and different kinds of blitzes and sims. And I was watching this pack. I watched their front with great interest against the Jags. And they're just not a great pass rush. They're not. They have good players. They have good young players like Edgerrin Cooper. Whew, fun. Williams, fun. But
Eshaun Nixon's been playing better than I thought he would at corner too. They've got guys.
I do not think that the front is playing well enough to cause the sort of problems for Goff that they did last year. I'll hit the other side of the ball briefly. I was more interested in the Packers defense just because of the quarterback thing. If it is Jordan Love, I want to see if he handles the blitz better than he has thus far this year. It's been a bit of a rocky road, and I'll tell you what, this Lions defense is going to, whoever's playing quarterback there, they're going to blitz the hell out of them, right? Because until they trade for reinforcements on the pass rush, that is what they are doing. They're blitzing, they're playing man coverage. Now, I think the Packers offense has the dudes to beat them in man coverage. You got Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft. Like, there's good
Romeo, good game.
Romeo, good matchups to be had through the air. The question is, can you run the ball, and can Jordan Love beat the blitz? I am also on the Lions. A lot of that has to do with the injuries. These teams are not playing at full strength, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah, I just don't think they'll be able to run it. Like, if I trust like three things: death taxes and the Lions' run defense. Like, that's just the way that Aaron Glenn has built this team and play it. And I think that in the Malik Willis world, that's obviously terrifying. But even in the Jordan Love world, like, when Love feels that his running game and their quick passing game isn't working, he becomes very like, well, what if we completed a 75-yard pass? It's like, we can't get that far over our skis,
So when I was looking back at the Thanksgiving game, I just, for the hell of it, watched some of his throws. He blacked out in that game.
Yeah.
I think it was the morning game, if I remember correctly, on Thanksgiving that year. Anyways, he went.
I remember is that we had like a Jets Dolphins game, I want to say, like Tim Boyle played.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I remember from Thanksgiving. And the thing is, like, last year you were throwing against Cam Sutton and Kendall Vilder. Now you're throwing against Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis, who are gettable, but are less gettable than they
definitely
were.
Better.
And so you're just not going to be able to have a free for all, I think, the way you did previously.
Okay, Colts Vikings. I was gonna do a quick one on this game, but now we've got this big Colts news. They're playing Joe Flacco against the Minnesota defense. Interesting choice.
I keep being told it's going to be better.
Well, it's for the long term. We got a lot of wild quotes today out of Indianapolis. So Dominique and I reacted to this news in real time, and I've seen, I think it was on Dominique's podcast. You were talking about it, right?
Yeah, he came on the show and he was like, since I was on Mina's show, I think I've changed my mind. And I was like, all right, this is going to be confusing for listeners.
So my opinion has changed the same, which is I think you can justify it in the short term if you feel it's what's best for the player. But I really didn't like the idea of like throwing in the towel in the long term. And also there has to be developmental reasons behind the scenes that we don't know about, which is, like a totally reasonable thing with teams. Maybe a player isn't whatever, just not doing the things that, you want the young player to do in terms of like preparation, et cetera, et cetera. That is not how they're describing it now.
No.
They are characterizing this as a long-term decision. They're not being protective of him at all in their language, which is, by the way, stark contrast to a lot of other young quarterback demotions we have seen around the NFL over the last few years. They're really, really, it's really strange, Ben. Like, it's honestly like pretty strange, but the net effect of it is Joe Flacco is their starter. And that's the other thing. Like I said, Dominic, I think you can justify this. Like if you're like, we don't want to lose the locker room. And this tap out thing caused a lot of drama, and which genuinely appears to have. And I respect and believe that. But again, it's like, what's your goal, man? Like to maybe make the wild card round and then get to lose. Like, I don't understand. Like there's no long-term thinking at play here.
I keep saying, like, all this to lose the wild card round with Joe Flacco, as if that's like a secured thing that's definitely going to happen.
Right.
Like, Joe Flacco was so good for the Browns last year. Okay, he had the best defense in the league, thrown to Amari Cooper and David Njoku. What makes this team feel like that team? What makes you think you just play? You lost to the winless Jags. Joe Flacco did, and they're banged up on the defense, absolutely, but still, like, this is not.
Now you got the Vikings. The timing of this too. Like, what happens if the Vikings roll them?
And
how do you message that?
And everyone keeps saying like, you couldn't have put Anthony Richardson out there in front of the Vikings. They would have creamed him. I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Vikings defense is and isn't good at.
So let's bring it to the game. Because I wrote, so my key for the Vikings is get back to dominating on first down, baby, because this isn't the Lions and it ain't the Rams. It's Joe Flacco back there. It's going to be a lot simpler to defend, particularly on those early downs. So the Vikings defense, I've talked about this a lot. It's all about they create chaos and havoc on early downs in a way that no other team does in the NFL. Weeks 1 through 6, they were third in EPA per play on first and second down, negative 0.1. The last 2 weeks, that has jumped to 0.08, they've been 21st. They've been essentially much worse on first and second downs because they've played arguably the best early down offenses outside of Baltimore in the NFL. Kansas City, baby, right? The Lions and the Rams, nightmare matchup for this Vikings defense that, they're still good, but okay. Now you got a quarterback. You like it, the Colts early down offense. I'm not saying it was better with Richardson.
The running game was better.
Well, so the formula for beating this Vikings team, you have to have an effective early down rushing attack. You must.
And you just gave away the most dynamic, like not the most dynamic piece because you have Jonathan Taylor, but a key piece of that, right? The Joe Flacco throws the ball really far down the field all the time, right? Like if you're going to go and hunt underneath completions, Brian Flores is going to eat you alive. The Vikings are the first defense in the league, best defense in the league against quick passing, 5th by short passing by the NGS scores, which is a composite of EPA and success rate, right? They're 19th against the deep pass. You want to throw the ball downfield on the Vikings because they rotate and they want to bait you into feeling like there's space underneath, taking it, and then they're bringing a guy there. They want to give you space to then take it away. What you need to be able to do is run, and then stay in the pocket long enough, max protect, and find the room downfield because their safeties are flying this way and that way, and they have not enough bodies back there.
Literally, what happened the last 2 weeks is like the case study. So, those Lions, the worst possible. Matchup for
in the world in which the Joe Flacco Colts beat the Minnesota Vikings, which I think there are some worlds, it's going to be because they connect on a bunch of deep balls. And you can argue, and Richardson leads the league in ADOT. Flacco right now is 5th. Richardson leads the league in percentage of throws to go 20 yards down the field. Flacco is 5th. Like, they're going to continue to push it the same way they did. Now, you can argue, but Flacco will throw far more catchable passes. You must have been watching a different Anthony Richardson than me because a lot of those passes downfield were catchable, and Mitchell's not getting to it. Michael Pittman's not getting to it, and they're not making the contested grabs. So unless there's something fundamentally more catchable at a Flacco ball, which I will allow for because I've never caught passes from either quarterback, then I don't see how the formula is going to change at all.
Yeah. See, so where I would push back is I do think that the Joe Flacco offense, independently of this game, is going to have a higher success rate.
Yes.
He will be able to, like, he is going to do all of the simple stuff at a much higher level than Anthony Richardson was. My frustration with watching Richardson was, first of all, ball handling, but whatever. That's not a Joe Flacco thing, anyways. He's not going to be running the option, but I don't know why Anthony Richardson can't. That was something that drove me crazy. But you know, those 7-yard hitches, like Joe Flacco, the ball will come out on time, and they will be able to move the ball much better on inferior defenses. My concern is specific to
For
this
this
game
game.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
I agree.
and look, I don't think I wouldn't have picked the Colts to beat them with Andy Richardson. I want to be very clear.
Mhm.
But I just think the things you have to do against this Vikings defense are not improved in this situation unless he hits on a bunch of those deep balls, which, by the way, sometimes Joe Flacco goes nuclear,
Yeah.
and that happens.
That's the thing about deep balls, is that sometimes you complete 3 of them and it equals 14, 17 points for your team. And sometimes you don't and you don't.
The other thing that has to happen is they have to dominate the Vikings' offensive line, which is entirely possible now that Christian Darrisaw is not in the lineup. I don't think this Colts pass rush has been very good, but they teed off on Stroud. Everybody tees off on Stroud, right? And I think there's a strong possibility that they have success against this Vikings line, which really crumbled when Darrisaw went out of the lineup. They did trade this week for Cam Robinson, who is, look, at I don't want to say at worst or at best. He at least gives you competent pass protection. I don't think he's particularly good in run blocking.
Mhm.
And I think the run game is going to suffer a great deal, but it's going to be better than what we saw against, assuming he plays, it'll be better than what we saw from David Quessenberry against the Rams.
Yeah. The thing I'm most interested for the Colts now, like moving forward, is just like this defense has to be able to step up, and they've, I think, been playing better over recent weeks, and they've figured out some of the corner issues. Sam Womack is playing great ball for them on the outside. Cool. You want to be the Vikings, you got to be able to get off the field. Yeah. And so I see a lot of worlds in which the offense looks a lot better for the Colts over the next 2 or 3 games. Like the success rate's higher and the completion rate is higher, but they also go 1 for 2. They lose them and they fall out of the playoff picture because defensively they can't get their stops.
Yeah, I got the Vikings in this one. I do worry about the pass rush, but I just don't think and I know Sam Darnold has struggled under pressure, but I just feel like they can't account for all of the Vikings' weapons now that at least, the offensive line is a problem, but the weapons are healthy.
Hawk's back, which Hawk is
huge,
good for like 2 third down
especially
conversions a game that are critical. Yeah.
And especially with the offensive line being diminished. And I feel like that average at the target for Sam Darnold is going to have to come down a little bit too.
Yeah.
You take
Vikings as well. Yeah.
All right. Bucks Chiefs. This again looks like I'm going to Kansas City, by the way. I'll be there for Monday.
You're doing the Monday Night Football countdown there?
We're going to be on set. Pardon me. This
what
is
do we
another
got weather-wise.
Oh, rain.
Oh, tornado warnings coming up. That's exciting.
This Bucks defense is bad, dude.
It's so bad.
You're okay. So I'm Chiefs. You're Bucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll start, even though I started last time too. The Bucks defense is bad, and they're bad in all of the ways that the Chiefs are just primed.
Yep. I spent probably the most time on this game, and I just end up like, all right, well, nothing. Cool, sick, cool, bye.
I mean, okay. What do the Chiefs love to do? 12, 13 personnel, run the football, throw their tight ends. The Bucks defense versus tight ends, 32nd in EPA per play. What else do the Chiefs love to do? That ball's coming out quick. It's coming out short passes. The Bucks versus short passes, 28th in EPA per play, 29th in success rate, 29th in QBR allowed. 85 is the QBR they allow on short passes. I could go on, but the point is, with the Chiefs offense, we keep saying, wow, somebody's going to make them, punish them for their style of play. It ain't going to be this team, Ben. It ain't going to be this team.
The thing that you have to do is you have what I wrote down for my key is you got to get really clever hiding your weak points, because Andy and Mahomes are just so good at saying, oh, we want you and we want you. And we're just going to do this in 16 different ways from 14 different formations. So we're just going to kind of keep hitting the same stuff over and over. Against the Falcons, rookie corner Tyreek Funderburk, who's in for the injured Jamel Dean, 5 targets, 4 catches, 85 yards and a score allowed in coverage. Second linebacker KJ Britt, who's in there. Devin White is gone. He's their linebacker next to Levante David. But as the nearest defender, 6 targets, 6 catches, 95 yards and a score, right? The Falcons basically said, we don't want to throw near Zion McCollum and Levante David. We'll just throw it near the other guys. And so you have like such a variety of options at safety and some like cool little hybrid players. Like this is like, I think a great game to get like really, really funky defensively and send a lot of those weird pressures, send them on early downs. But the Bucs this year have really turtled. They're playing a lot of zone and they're not blitzing on early downs as much as they used to. And they feel very fearful as opposed to how Todd Bowles defense usually feels. You just can't do that against the Chiefs. You can't expect to drop guys in coverage and win with your pass rush. Like Mahomes is just he's gonna beat you on the chalkboard for 4 quarters. You have to be willing to do some peculiar stuff, get that turnover, get that early stop, and like be able to put this game into a weird script. You gotta invite some chaos.
Chiefs run game is an absolute meat grinder.
Yeah, with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt had 21 carries for 59 yards.
That's put the dude who looks like he's on the cover of romance novels. They can run the ball with him freaking 4.5 yards a clip and just grind them into oblivion. Carson Steele. That's
Carson Steele. I was wondering. I was like, where'd the romance novels thing come from? Oh, it's yeah.
I mean, this would have been a lot more fun with Chris Godwin's the best Bucs offense. Is the Chiefs defense the best defense in football? Let's start there.
Probably.
Think about it.
Yeah. Like I think I'm worried about the secondary depth right now because Jalen Watson is hurt and Najee Johnson's also hurt. Like so for this game, I'm like, oh, I wonder matchups. But overall, like they've been the best defense through 8 weeks. I think. Yeah.
You ready for Josh Uche to infuriate the world and get like 8 sacks?
13 snaps a game, 4 pressures a game. All right, just DPR to death.
Yeah. I just feel like they're really undermanned offensively. I mean. What would you do to attack this Chiefs defense?
So I'm looking for backups, right? Where like Jalen Watson was the starting outside corner for this team, was playing really, really good ball. He left the season, he left the game, injured lower leg 2 weeks ago. So Najee Johnson becomes the new player for them. He left the game with a concussion against the Raiders. He's in the protocol. We don't know if he's going to play or not. So we're just at a point where injuries are starting to accumulate at one position. I never throw it near Trent McDuffie. I exclusively throw it to the other guys, and I just see if I can test your depth. I don't want this to become a game where Baker has to spend time behind the pocket. We talked about Baker a couple weeks ago, how once we take away his quick pass and we invite Baker time in the pocket, we get a lot of mistakes. And that was really the case in that Ravens game that we were previewing. This Chiefs team will be exactly the same way, where the longer Baker holds it, the worse it gets. So to me, it's very, very quick pass. I'm going to throw it back a lot. I'm going to throw the receiver short a lot. And I'm just going to try to take advantage of weak corner play.
Yeah, if they had Mike Evans, I don't think anyone on the Chiefs defense matches up well with Mike Evans. So yeah, they just don't have the size right now. But they do not have Mike Evans in this game.
We not for nothing, like this Chiefs team, you said meat grinder on offense. Defense has been so good. The initial projection for Isaiah Pacheco return, the earliest week was next week. Like there's a chance Pacheco's back soon. Like they're going to add to the offense. Ugh.
Don't look. What do you think Patrick Mahomes' average air yards per attempt is right now?
Last I looked, it was like 6.5.
I think I haven't looked either. Let's look together at the same time so we can be equally disgusted when we pull it up.
Is this?
I think it's lower. I think it's lower than 6.5. I'm guessing it's lower. This is like the nerdiest podcast moment of all time.
We need a long dramatic drum roll coming up.
It's gonna be gross.
Why isn't NGS loading for me?
I got right. True Media. Okay, average areas per attempt. Scrolling down. Oh, 5.8. Oh,
nasty. I don't respect it. I was one of the last people I feel like to be like, no, this is cool. It's impressive what the Chiefs are doing.
No, not cool. I hate it.
No, I'm so over it. This is gross and I hate it. I want them to lose.
I hope no Chiefs fans are listening to this and thinking, we just said you had the best defense. We just said we're gonna win this game with ease. Everything you do on offense is a great matchup for the Bucs. I just don't enjoy it right now. I'm sorry.
I'm willing to start spreading Chiefs referee propaganda at this point, just to have something change. do one cool play. They tried to do like 6 cool plays to Worthy against the Raiders, and just none of them connected. It's just, do one cool play a game, please. It hasn't happened in weeks. It's a dark, dangerous place.
All right, that's it for all we got. That's all we got today. Oh yeah, so I assume we both picking the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I will be in Kansas City. No Chiefs fans boo me for these takes. I have you winning. Like I said, I had you not only in the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. It is what it is. As always, you can check out this podcast on YouTube, where please leave nice comments about Ben. I don't usually read them, but I will read them this week. And anyone who leaves a compliment, I will reply to with a compliment in return.
Is there a reason why we have to incentivize people to say nice things about me? Do I have to go look at the last episode?
I know you're reading them. Shout out to the one guy who always complains about Lenny not appearing. That's the only commenter I ever see for some reason. I will be back next week on Tuesday to recap the thrilling Monday Night Football game that I talked about. I'll be back from Kansas City. Nothing else going on Tuesday, so I'm sure you'll all be dialed into that episode. Or you can listen to it to alleviate any other anxieties you have, or as a welcome distraction. As always, thank you to everybody at Omaha Productions, Kirsten Sebecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Shastin, and I'll be back next week.